is Valley News Live at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Justin Benny. Well, much of the valley has warmed up and dried out since last weekend's storm. Some areas are seeing some washouts, like this one on County Road 26 in Clay County. To see how long the warm temperatures will stick around and when the rain returns, let's send things over now to First Alert Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Hutch.
With regards to your first question, Justin, the temperatures, they're looking lovely even into the weekend and beyond. Much warmer than we've been over the past month, but we still have some rain concerns, so the dry weather won't stick around too long. Here is a photo from Tara Emerson. Thanks so much. This is a view of Pembina, North Dakota up there. You can see here, now you're looking south across the ball fields. There is the Red River, the bridge on the lower right-hand side. Let's make that full screen. You can see that park with the ball fields protected by a huge ring dike around that area. But when we turn around and look across the Red River and the I-29 corridor, you can really get a feel for the expanse of the overland flooding there. And you'll be battling high river levels at Pembina, but there's good news. Take a check at this. All of these green arrows means the rivers are starting to fall at Netchie slowly. That began yesterday. The red at Drayton, the red at Grand Forks and Oslo, all starting to fall. Look at how dramatically it's falling here in Grand Forks. The red at Pembina still rising, and it will slowly continue to do so as we go into and through the weekend. So the battle will continue there. A quick look at Netchie. Even though it's going down, it's just minuscule amounts. So you too will have a fight on your hand. An update on the Southern Valley. The area rising is Kindred. That is where we have the issues. Even the red in Fargo is starting to fall. Here's Kindred's projections, expected to be high through the weekend and in major flood stage. We'll keep our eyes on that. For now, it's a quiet night. Temperatures, Justin, are outstanding, I should say, and near 70 up near Baudette at 68 degrees. We do have 70s in the orange colors. We've declared a first alert weather day. It's for Saturday, late in the day and overnight. We could see some severe storms. We could see some locally heavy rain, and that could impact local rivers. I'll have an update here in a few minutes.
All right, thanks, Hutch. Today, Moorhead police officers responded to the high school to break up a fight between two students. The school spokesperson says it happened in a hallway just before classes began. The school resource officer called for assistance to help contain that situation. School officials said once the students were escorted off campus, a verbal argument broke out between 4 different students. School leaders say the students' families were notified and disciplinary action was taken. The Cass County Sheriff's Office wants to launch a new program to make the jail safer, while also providing opportunities for inmates. They're calling it the Reignite Program. County officials are turning to the community to help make it happen. Whatever work you do, whether it's in the trades, whether you own a business, you can teach life skills, they're asking folks to provide educational opportunities to inmates.
We need the community to step up with funding and logistical support. We need teachers and trainers to step up with time and provide their expertise, whether it's plumbers, electricians, truckers, welders, ag workers, you name it, we need to train it.
Representatives from a jail in Michigan have a similar program. They say it's reduced violence there inside the jail by up to 96%. Today, Ukrainian forces continue to hold on in the southern port city of Mariupol, denying Russia's attempt to completely capture that city. Now, Ukraine's president is asking the UN to help the wounded who are trapped there, saying some will need to be dug out from underground bunkers by hand. Ukraine's foreign minister says Russia is not interested in negotiating. The United Nations is currently assisting with evacuation efforts in Mariupol and is working with the Red Cross to get another evacuation convoy there by Friday. Russia's invasion of Ukraine is making a lot of countries rethink their security, and as a result, the U.S. may officially gain 2 new military allies as soon as this summer. Ian Lee reports from London.
Finland and Sweden are racing to protect themselves after Russia invaded Ukraine. More than 100 U.S. troops are training with NATO allies in Finland this week, a show of strength to neighboring Russia.
We're going to find a way to keep things peaceful.
But Sweden and Finland are not part of NATO and wouldn't be protected if Moscow chose to invade them next.
It is actually a horrendous time with the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
That's why both countries are considering a NATO bid.
Standing together strongly for democracy.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. backs their membership, But the Kremlin warns if the Nordic nations join NATO, Moscow will move their nukes closer to Finland's border, a threat that's giving a sense of urgency to joining the alliance.
I think it's everybody's interest that different countries would move as fast as possible. That would be the best security guarantee that we could have.
Sweden and Finland say if they join, they'll do it together, a decision that could come as early as next week. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Well, stopping Ukraine from joining NATO, by the way, is one of the main reasons Vladimir Putin gave for invading that country. OPEC announced today they will gradually increase the flow of oil they send to the world, even as Europe's plan to sanction Russian oil threatens to yank millions of barrels off the global market. Despite this move, though, the price of gasoline, diesel, and aviation fuel are all expected to rise. Energy experts say the only reasons prices haven't risen more are COVID lockdowns in China, cutting back on demand, and the U.S. and other International Energy Agency countries releasing oil from their strategic reserves. The Dow dropped more than 1,000 points today following yesterday's announcement by the Federal Reserve that they will raise interest rates. The Fed raised its benchmark interest rate by 0.5% as part of an effort to slow borrowing and tamp down inflation, which is at a 4-decade high. But moving too quickly could turn our surging job market into more of a recession. Public protests over abortion rights have taken place all over the country this week. While the demonstrations have nearly all been peaceful, there appears to be some concern things may change if or when the Supreme Court officially overturns Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood v. Casey. Elise Preston has details.
New fencing went up overnight, completely encircling the Supreme Court after Politico published a draft opinion showing the justices could be on the verge of overturning Roe versus Wade.
Hands off our bodies! Pro-choice, that's a lie! Babies never just die!
The demonstrations have been loud but peaceful in the days since the leak. But Justice Samuel Alito, who wrote the opinion in February, canceled a public appearance scheduled for today. The court ruling could come as early as this month. If the justices do overturn Roe, the battle over abortion rights kicks back to the states, many of which are already working on their own legislation.
In Oklahoma, I've been very clear. I don't believe in abortion. We're trying to do everything we can to get it out of our state.
I'm a pro-choice governor, and as long as I'm governor, we're going to remain a pro-choice state.
26 states are likely to ban at least some access to abortions if Roe is defeated, including Texas, where the last anti-abortion Democrat in Congress is facing a runoff this month against a pro-abortion rights opponent.
I'm a Catholic, and I'm against abortion, but do I believe in an outright ban? No.
A recent poll shows most Texans agree with that view, with 78% saying abortion should be allowed in some form and 15% saying it should never be permitted. But Texas is one of the 13 states with so-called trigger laws that would automatically go into effect to ban abortions if Roe is overturned. Elise Preston, CBS News, the Supreme Court.
And that Texas poll you just heard about matches nationwide polling conducted by CBS News back in November, showing 62% of Americans want abortion to be legal in their own state in all or most cases, with 14% saying their state should make it illegal in all cases. Again, the effects of this potential ruling will vary substantially from state to state. Valley News Team's J.C. Dodd shows us what it would mean for North Dakota and Minnesota.
With the possibility of Roe v. Wade being overturned on a federal level, many states are discussing the possibility of trigger laws. That means because there would be no federal law providing abortion protections, a state may choose to put a law in place. Now, some states already have laws on the books, for instance, North Dakota. In this state, a 2007 law would make performing an abortion a felony. In the absence of Roe v. Wade, abortions in the state would then become illegal. We looked at the recent numbers of how many women are having abortions in North Dakota to see what the impact would be. In 2019, there were 1,121 reported abortions in the state. More than half of them were women in their 20s. The next year, 2020, there were 1,171 reported abortions in the state, again, the majority being women in their 20s. While Minnesota is not a trigger state, there are significant restrictions in place. So how many women in Minnesota are having abortions, and could we see that number spike if women had to travel there for an abortion? Data from the Minnesota Department of Health shows almost 10,000 abortions were reported in 2019. The most recent data shows that number dropping to 9,108 abortions in 2020, but that's almost 8 times the number in North Dakota. The owner of the only operating abortion clinic in North Dakota says she has plans to open a clinic in Moorhead if the Supreme Court decides to overturn Roe v. Wade.
J.C. Dodd reporting. Minnesota, of course, also a much larger state by population than North Dakota is. The U.S. is approaching 1 million deaths from COVID-19, and hospitalizations are once again rising in some areas. The CDC reports the U.S. is averaging 65,000 new cases a day over the last week, nearly double what it was 1 month ago, but only a small fraction of what we saw last winter. Doctors say their main worry is being prepared in case new variants show up.
If a new variant comes along that not only is very transmissible, that even evades our immunity much better, but also can make us a lot sicker than this one currently does, we will really be in trouble.
Worldwide, the World Health Organization estimates nearly 15 million people were either killed by COVID or its impacts on the overwhelmed health system over the last 2 years. That's more than double the official death toll of 6 million. During the heart of the pandemic, the U.S. came close providing health care for all for COVID-19, but now things are reverting back to normal, financially speaking at least, as the federal money for the uninsured dries up. Since the pandemic began, hospitals and clinics are seeing sharply higher costs for things like salaries and basic operating expenses, and many fear they won't be prepared if there is another surge. Expiring government COVID programs covered testing, treatment, vaccine costs for uninsured people. However, officials say new antiviral drugs like Paxlovid should remain free of charge to patients, even uninsured ones, even once the funding dries up. With drug overdoses skyrocketing, states and the federal government are looking for new ways to tackle the crisis. Drug overdose deaths surpassed 100,000 during the 12 months ending in April of 2021. That's up more than 28% from the year before, and they've been rising for several years now. Synthetic opioids, mostly fentanyl, are among the biggest causes for this. Customs and Borders Protection says most fentanyl arrives in the U.S. through ports of entry along the southwest border in cars and commercial trucks where they think it's hidden. Still to come on Valley News Live at 4, a COVID outbreak on a cruise ship causing another quarantine.
And temperatures very close to 70 degrees today in Badette, 66 in Roseau, and Mahnomen, a beautiful 67-degree day. Oh, fun to play outside. Hey, we're watching a change in the pattern. Rain, but not every day, all day. A few thunderstorms are in the forecast. Some could be strong. Locally, heavy rain could impact rivers. We'll detail all of that coming up right after this.